YakChat, a podcast from BlakYaks. In this episode, Alex Durieu from Microsoft joins BlakYaks CEO Dirk Anderson for an insightful discussion on the transformative power of artificial intelligence in today's digital landscape.
Good morning. Thanks for joining. I'm Dirk Anderson. I head up the team here at BlakYaks. Today we're here to talk about artificial intelligence, AI with Microsoft, and I'm joined by Alex from Microsoft. Thanks for being here, Alex. Do you want to just spend a couple of moments introducing yourself?
Good morning, Dirk. Thank you for having me this morning. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Alex Durieu, working with Microsoft. I've been with the company for over 5 years. I lead a team of Azure specialists in an area called Digital App Innovation. So think about the area where we help our customers modernize and build next generation AI apps. So the classic Microsoft stack from a Kubernetes platform as a service integration point of view, and of course GitHub Copilot, but also our AI services such as Azure OpenAI.
Yeah, that leads me nicely on to introducing the episode, Alex. So this is the fifth in a series of 5 that BlakYaks have put out, broadly covering Azure, DevOps, automation, orchestration. I think in the last episode, which was all about automation within Azure, we touched towards the end of that episode on AI, artificial intelligence, and what does that mean for a variety of different consumers. So, but before we get into all that, Alex, I guess my take is AI has become really pervasive, almost ubiquitous across a whole variety of platforms, from telephones, social media platforms, all the way through to there being really serious business applications for it as well. But before we get into the business side, it'd be good to just get your own take, Alex, on, I guess, something that felt like a bit of a gradual evolution to feels a bit revolutionary over the last year or so. Get a bit of a backstory from you on that and your own experience.
Absolutely, yeah. No, we are definitely in the middle of a new computing revolution. It's actually not my first time in the world of AI. Fresh from university, I joined a French company, being French, that sold software based on some of the AI research that were done at university there. So in the field of decision management, mathematical, stochastic optimization. So it was a really interesting world, and the things that we were doing with customer at the time already were really, really interesting and transformational. I think what really changed in the past couple of years, obviously with the advance of Azure OpenAI and the LLMs, it is that readily availability of that technology, and the fact that it surfaces so easily, as you mentioned, rightly so, in your daily life, whether on your phone, your car, your computer, and obviously cloud such as Azure.
Yeah, it's kind of become common language, and it'd be good to get an understanding and how you're seeing it within businesses and the businesses that you and your team serve, Alex. What kind of stage are people at? How are they thinking about how they might move forward? Where is it all at in terms of business consumption of the tool set that you're familiar with?
Yeah, so I'm sure you're familiar with the term Copilot. Yeah. So I think it all started, one of the first service that with production, I was actually GitHub Copilot. Right. And we've seen, it's a phenomenal product, and the results that we see out of the productivity gains has been, really, really impressive. That was the first technology that really surfaced for Microsoft and GitHub customers as well. Obviously, we've added generative AI capabilities within our Microsoft 365 suites. And as an employee of Microsoft, obviously that surfaces through Teams. Yeah. So we've seen, internally, obviously a lot of adoption of that. From an external perspective, from a customer point of view, GitHub Copilot was one of the first things that we talked to them about from an app innovation perspective. So rapid adoption of that service. And then from an Azure OpenAI point of view, I think a lot of people have been looking at the technology, trying to understand it, wrap their head around what does that mean? What are the benefits that I can get out of it? What are the use cases? And in terms of generative AIs, there are a set of use cases such as summarization, obviously code generation, content generation, which are very visible. But the adoption has been, let us try, let us pilot, let us experiment with it. And I think now, if you look at the law of diffusion of innovation curve, we're starting to be up the curve, and people are starting to put things into production and surface it to all their own customers.
Yeah, that's my perspective, Alex. People have suddenly got on the bandwagon real quick, have spent a year or so experimenting, getting to understand the technology that's now at the fingertips that wasn't before, and now thinking hard about how do we get it from experimentation through to production. I know there's a whole bunch of foundations that we at BlakYaks talk to customers about that you've got to get right. Is how do you get people to consume it in a safe, secure and private way? How do you think about taking new models and releasing them through to production so that they can be consumed more broadly within the business units? I guess there are different applications for different lines of business, depending on whether you're a legal team, a marketing team, and as you've touched upon, Alex, a set of developers that just want to increase productivity and take a lot of the churn out of producing lots of code. But it's that next step, isn't it? It's how do we get from there into a much more production context? I think that's the journey most companies are on, large companies.
It is, yes. And the journey is not too different from what we've seen in digital transformation. So you're absolutely right calling out you need the right foundation to enable this. We've seen the early adopters, and the one who got the early wins were the one who had that foundational architecture right. So by that I mean that cloud native approach, that developer friendly landing zone on Azure, where obviously it is secure by design with a good layer of governance and the right architectural foundations, but they were the one who were able to pivot the fastest.
That's a great point, isn't it, Alex? That we'll have customers that are on a different stage of their Azure journey. They're those that may be just looking at Azure as their hyperscaler for the first time, the hyperscaler of choice. There's other customers that are really quite embedded, so they've got, like you say, they've got the landing zones deployed. They're already secure, robust, observable, operable, manageable. And kind of for those organizations, about how do you enable this new slew of services, including OpenAI? How do you get it enabled quicker, but plugged into all those good foundations you've already got, whether that's your automation, your DevOps and CI/CD pipelines. I know at BlakYaks we think about it as just another service, and this foundation and getting it established is key to going and winning in the market and being successful with it. So, I mean, any specific use cases, I'm not sure what you're allowed to talk about and what you're not, but whether you talk about the customer anonymously, if you get anything in the public domain, it'd be good to bring it to life through some real use cases.
Yeah, so you'll find on our website actually there's a nice page around all our the Microsoft AI story, whether it's through Azure OpenAI or more classic AI services like cognitive services. But from a generative AI perspective, the three use cases that we've seen are around summarization, content generation, and code generation. So as I said, the ones who had the right architecture were able to pivot, and probably a retailer will be way ahead of the game when it comes to digital transformation. So they will be the one building the assistants to help you shop, for example. Yeah. But there's also pockets of industries that we wouldn't think about would pick up this technology as a rose. So I'm thinking about legal particularly. So we've got Alan and Overy, for example, has been in the press recently talking about what they're doing in terms of contract generation. So they use some of our technology to actually generate some of their contracts. So think about non-disclosure agreements, merger and acquisition. So the system will generate those contracts and then will allow them to either accept it or probably more likely amend it and have a review around it. But the level of productivity they're getting out of it is pretty amazing. And I think we always talk about, every organization or every company is a software company, and they really epitomize that. Yeah. Because if you look into the Azure marketplace, you'll actually find the application that they've built for themselves also now becoming a SaaS service. So you've got the aggregation of, we've done our digital transformation, we've got a flexible stack, coupled with the ability we've been able to harness the power of AI and generative AI, build a product, package it, and actually distribute that benefits for other organizations to adopt. So it's a really nice example. From a marketing perspective, you've got Typeface in the US, so are using generative AI to create that marketing content. So help them do some iteration from a couple of prompts to build their marketing campaigns and help their organization as well.
Yeah, you've I guess you've touched on a broad set of use cases, Alex. One is around things like OpenAI within Azure, and then you've got all the Copilot additions to existing Microsoft products. I guess there are different consumers there. Do you want to unpack that a little bit more about that variety of use cases and what you're seeing out there?
Actually, one of my colleagues had a very good article from one of the top research firm out there, and they sort of think about it in three personas. Not too dissimilar to what we've seen in the past, but they were talking about those takers, so organization that want to adopt readily available AI services. So think about Teams, for example, Teams Copilot. Think about GitHub Copilot, where they can see the value of the outcome straight away. They can adopt it and they can run with it. So takers will be the first one. Then they were mentioning about the shapers. So they're the ones who actually crack open the Azure OpenAI APIs, for example, or the AI services, where they build incremental value using our tool. And that's definitely where we see organizations really want to build competitive differentiation, because they take the stack and the Copilot stack to the next level. And then the last one were the makers. So us as Microsoft or our partners OpenAI, who are building and training those large language model or those small language model, as well as we've seen with 5.3, for example. So they're really the three different personas that we were mentioning, and I really like the idea of that. And the other thing they were saying is that companies are generally a mix of takers and shapers. But as I said, the shapers are probably the one where they're going to be able to build that competitive differentiation by ingesting, leveraging, and productionizing that technology.
Yeah, it sounds like something for everyone. You've got all the takers. Even within a large enterprise business context, there are lots of departments that can get productivity gains immediately from just consuming Copilot type tools and utilities. And then you've got developers with GitHub Copilot plus OpenAI that can start to build intelligence into modern applications. And I guess it leads me nicely on, Alex, to kind of digital transformation. We've been talking about that for a decade plus now, and what does that mean to the industry? I suppose AI changes that a little bit. It's a similar path, but it gives you some additional capabilities that maybe didn't exist prior to a couple of years ago that are quite interesting.
Yeah, very much so. So digital transformation was very much about embedding digital technology into your business operations. So to optimize, improve processes, but also creating new products and services. APIs were the foundational technology, at least from my point of view. Some may disagree, but that's okay. With the foundational technology, I do talk a lot about APIs, to enable that, putting that interface in front of your data, in front of your services, in front of your assets as well, in order to get more leverage out of your investment. Just putting an API to be in a mobile app sounded revolutionary 10 years ago. And here we are today, taking that next step into AI transformation.
Totally agree with you, Alex. Internally, we talk a lot about API-driven architectures, and I guess there's a bunch of things that have happened in the industry over the last 10 years or so that brought us to a bit of an inflection point. So clouds become really pervasive. Most large organizations are using one or more cloud hyperscalers at the heart of their technology platform. They typically come with accessible, rich APIs because they've been built in modern technology stacks. I think development communities and platform engineering communities have become really adept at consuming those things. And from my perspective, OpenAI and the new breed of tools and services around AI within the Microsoft stack, we can just readily consume those things. I mean, getting back to having really solid foundations, good automation, being able to consume the rich array of services today within Azure, and then we just add to that some of the kind of AI capabilities, and using the vehicle that you've already created to go off and just consume that is just creates all this new capability that customers can go and enjoy.
Absolutely. And everything that you've built in your modern architecture is still very much valid. So everybody's adopted to some degree the cloud. Some still prefer on-prem, and that's okay. But everything that you've built still remains very valid. So if you've modernized your stack, if you've modernized your integration layer, if you modernize your front end, then AI come as an add-on to it, and a nice add-on, adding more value. You'll hear us talking about modernizing and building AI apps. because there is value in a lot of apps that our customers are building that needs a little bit of uplifting, don't get me wrong, in some areas. But because everything is consumable as an API, there is, that readiness, that readily availability that you can consume very quickly. So if your foundations are sound and you've enabled your developers with the right level of governance, the right guardrails, then you can quickly get to experimentation, pilot, and then production. I think what we need to remind ourselves is, whilst it is a piece of technology and IT has got a role to play with it, it is very much a business conversation, AI. Even back in the days when I started in that area, all the projects were involved. Yes, I was talking to some people in the IT department because they are the enablers, but the value is really in the business conversation and the business outcome. So whilst I get really excited about the technology, my team gets really excited about the technology, we always remind ourselves to ground in, what is the customer trying to achieve? What are they going to get out of it? What's the competitor edge, and how do we help them get there? What's the methodology? What are the various levels that we can give them?
Couldn't agree more, Alex. It's what I see out there. If you're speaking to people within the legal area, it's all about how do we get through lots and lots of documents quickly and build summaries against old case law for marketing functions. How do we create new content quicker, whether it's new copy or producing very, very cool images using AI. And we have fun with it internally. If I look at our own business, it certainly fairly rapidly disrupted how we thought about copy production within the business. We're all the way through to the fun stuff that we do, creating really cool BlakYaks images using AI tools and being able to scale them, just using tools that are at our fingertips. And a much more serious, context for us is everybody's had a bit of a game when we're producing infrastructure as code, again in productivity by just using a service like OpenAI, or it could be GitHub Copilot, but having a lot of that coding churn taken away from you with the help of a tool like that has been big for us. And we've had these productivity gains without even realising it happened because we've just gone off and consumed the tool. So that's been quite interesting for me to watch. And that's a company with some 40 plus people in, albeit with some decent expertise in this space. But you begin to think about that in an enterprise with 5, 10, 20,000 people in it, the productivity gains are potentially off the charts.
Yeah, and we see it internally. Obviously, we've been using Team for quite a while, and the addition of Copilot on top of it has been, extremely beneficial to me and the organization. A simple example is when I run the meetings with my teams or my one-to-ones with them, rather than taking notes on, traditionally on OneNote, for example, we put Copilot on, and we get the summarization, we get the key points, we get the action. And as you've seen yesterday, we're taking that to the next level as well on Teams. So the productivity gain are very visible very quickly, and that's the big difference. That compared to technology before, it's that visibility and that immediacy of it. Because everything's pre-trained, everything's available. Yes, you can tweak it, you can tune it, you can build your own, but what's out there already, it's pretty damn impressive.
I'm smiling, Alex, because I spoke to two of your colleagues yesterday and they were telling me that Copilot switched into the team video sessions and even coaching them on whether they're speaking too quickly, make the point again, some interesting stuff that's just flowing out the back by just turning some of this capability on. So
yeah, absolutely. And in terms also of accessibility, that's a game changer, and also in terms of inclusivity, where you've seen some of the translation capabilities, though that would have some pretty deep ramification if you're running international meetings, and we do sometimes. We're a big organization, and obviously everybody speaks English in the organization, but I could now pick up the phone and have a conversation with some of my colleagues in Italy or in Turkey or maybe in Japan. Who knows?
Yeah, there's use cases everywhere. I suppose in broad summary, Alex, we've talked about it's pervasive. Those tools are at people's fingertips within large businesses now. Critical to get the foundations established, laid out, everything from how do you integrate the tools and present them out to the community that are going to consume them, to how do you get your business walking the first mile. I think that's important. We didn't quite touch on that, but how do you do some of the prompt engineering hand in hand with them to get them to a position where they understand the types of returns that you're going to get from the large language models? How do they then curate that and say, we're comfortable with it, release it? I guess they've got to think about some adjustments to the existing ML ops or AI ops models
Absolutely. You touched on a very important point, skills. And you probably see some of the announcement that we've made at BL yesterday, but the skills to harness the power of AI are slightly different from, a developer building an API, for example. You hit the nail on the head with prompt engineering, which is a critical capability that businesses need to understand whether to use Teams or use the Azure OpenAI services. So we've released some additional curriculum to help companies build those foundation and train their staff on how to harness the power of AI. From an infrastructure point of view, we've got templates on how to build those developer-friendly landing zone with now the addition of how to manage Azure OpenAI services. And then finally, there's the Microsoft team. There's my team. So, the Azure specialists are generally the first port of call when you need some help on how to operationalize Azure, whether it's from your classic infrastructure or app modernization or now building AI apps.
I was going to say that, question, I think you covered some of it, Alex, but how do people get started? Because people are going to be at different levels of maturity on the Azure journey. Some will have all those rich foundations in place, solid automation, good consumption of API. They can just go and enable and get the service moving with a release process that gets them from experimentation through to production, and that being well understood and integrated to good DevOps CI/CD pipelines. But there are some customers, I guess, that are just at the start of that journey. What's the first step in terms of getting help? Obviously, partners like BlakYaks are in a position to help, but in terms of getting in touch with Microsoft and getting the support that customers need, what does that look like?
The partnership with companies such as yourself is pivotal. We're very much a partner-driven organization, so there'll always be a partner working with us on any project. Some teams, some customers will be independent and grasp technology very easily or have large engineering organizations, some a little bit less. But the starting point is really, get in touch with your Microsoft rep. We, the marketing team puts regular events around, modernization and building AI apps. Azure OpenAI, Fabric is also a key component of the architecture. Having your right data foundation. So all these things are happening on a regular basis. So the Microsoft event website, if you've been you'll find all the latest events from a Microsoft perspective. We have a few interesting tools. Obviously, our specialists are the one who have that knowledge, coupled with some of our technical teams. A very key tool that we have as well is the Microsoft Technology Center, where we welcome customers to do a variety of exercise with them, from design thinking to running sprints. So customers can engage with us very quickly and sit down with them and understand, okay, what does that mean for you? How is your estate looking like if you're sort of thinking of modernization? Or, is it a question of we just review what you've got there and just adjust with the delta that you need?
And I think we're going to leave your email address at the end of this session, Alex. So if you don't mind, we'll point. Absolutely. We'll do that, and you can always point people at the right people within Microsoft. Just wanted to say thanks again, Alex, for taking the time to join us here today. It's been great. I know how busy you are just walking down the road, the calls that were coming to your mobile, and you having to deal with a whole variety of things. So really appreciate you taking the time out and spending it with us today.
You're very welcome, and it's a pleasure to be here, and pleasure to be talking to you, Dirk, as always.
Thank you, Alex. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. That was the last episode in this series. If there was anything that was interesting what Alex and I discussed, please feel free to get in touch. Our email addresses will be presented on the end of the video, and tune in for the next series by BlakYaks in the second half of the year.
And you can get in touch with Dirk by emailing dirk.anderson@blakyaks.com or solutions@blakyaks.com. To find out more about any of the subjects discussed in our podcast, please visit blakyaks.com. You can also find us on LinkedIn, X and Instagram @BlakYaks, and please follow and rate us on your podcast app.